how do I, promote myself because it's icky. And so they don't do it at all. And so this is actually just the way that, well, no, you actually can, but can you do it from the quality of compassion, right?
Exactly.
Can you do it from a quality of connectedness? Can you do it from a quality of like courage?
Welcome to Wild and Finally Fucking Free, the show for disruptors, rebels, and revolutionaries who know they're here to change the damn world. I'm Kylie Patchett, your voice and visibility catalyst, and here we dive into unapologetic truth, magnetic messaging, and visibility that actually feels good in your body, your bones, and your business. We share the stories of the out-of-the-box, neuro-sparkly, creative, witchy wild ones, rewriting how we live, love, learn, and lead. This isn't about being louder. It's about being rooted, resonant, and regulated so you can be real, raw, and ready to roar. If you're done contorting yourself to fit the mold and you're ready to own your voice, your power, and your place in the revolution, welcome home. Let's dive in. Hello, friends. Welcome to another guest episode. Now, you have arrived at part 2 of a very juicy episode with Andrea Tessier. So if you haven't listened to part 1, go back, listen to that, and then come on down. Andrea is a friend of mine. She is an amazing coach, master coach, and an IFS practitioner that helps entrepreneurs understand the parts of them that could be coming out and trying to drive the business bus instead of letting the wild woman authentic self lead. Enjoy.
What I feel like is really important to say here is like people are like listening and going like, oh my God, I have a manager. Oh my God, I have a firefighter. I have that part. Like we need to know that parts are not problems. They are not obstacles. They have developed for very good reasons. They have good intentions. A lot of traditional therapy, a lot of traditional coaching will actually kind of teach us to override or discipline or fix these parts that get in the way from being the person that we want to be, or we're told to reframe them or find a better feeling thought. But IFS takes a completely different view. Like it sees that these are protectors. They're actually very loyal.
Yes.
They actually like you a lot.
Yes.
They kind of keep you safe in the way that they know how. And so the intention is good. And if we can bring a level of like respect and reciprocity to these parts, that's actually how they settle. Everybody just wants to be seen and heard and understood and seen for how good they are. And the same is true inside.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when we can bring that level of like love and understanding to our parts, that's actually how we get the balance that people are always seeking and craving.
Yes, exactly. When you're talking about like traditional therapy and coaching, it's like these parts get demonized. And I think that one of the key things when I found parts work, and I was like when, Dick Schwartz, I always call him Dick Schwartz. He's such a cool little dude, isn't he? But like the concept of there is no bad parts. So when I heard that and I'm like, but my binge eater is a bad part. Like this had been a problem for me for my entire life. That's, and this is when I came across parts where it was actually in a program about binge eating, which was very interesting because the program overall was this like, this is a problem and the only way to fix it is complete abstinence, like of all of these foods were demonized and whatever. But then there was an external coach who was an IFS practitioner. And I remember watching like a masterclass about it. And he talked about how, there's this thing that's happening. There's a wounded exile underneath all of this. And then when that binge eater comes online, because there's so much guilt and shame that happens with that kind of addiction pathway, right? That it's like this constant manager, firefighter, manager, firefighter, manager, firefighter. And it can feel like you have no control over it. As soon as I understood that it's like, oh, instead of trying to demonize the binge eater, like what the invitation here is to like cuddle up to that part of me and be like, tell me what you're trying to do. And I remember one of the first times I did like an IFS process on like the binge eater, which I always thought was like the enemy. There was such a moment in time where like that part, they don't like it, she didn't understand that I was I don't know how old I was then, maybe 40, I don't know, 5 or something. Like that part didn't understand that I was a 45-year-old woman with, sovereignty and wasn't in a dangerous environment and wasn't like all of those things. And I remember just feeling this like big sense of like, this part is like, so I'm on duty and I'm off to be hyper vigilant and this is my job to keep her safe. And then this sense of just like, okay, so if I don't have to play this role and you are an adult, and I was there, some part of that process is like, what would you like to do if you didn't have to do that? And the answer was, I would like to be sitting by a pool with a cocktail, please and thank you. Like, I just want to sit back and relax. Like, this poor part was exhausted. And like you say, it's from love. Like they're trying to be of service to us.
In the best way that they know how.
Like, exactly. And how cool. Like I can now look at that part and go, wow, if you didn't come online back when I was 4, imagine what pain I would have experienced without that ability to circuit break, So that's wild.
Well, it's like, it's so amazing to see parts that, have been running the show to realize, oh, like higher self is here. Like self energy is here. I can relax. Like most often people's bodies just like, just something soften and they're like, oh, good. Or they realize how old the person actually is now. Most often when we ask parts like, oh, how old do you think I am? We get like single digits back. We don't, even though you can intellectualize what's happening, like your parts haven't been updated. I don't understand that you're not who you were back then. And it just provides them with so much relief. And they're kind of like, oh, okay, well, there's an adult here. Like I can chill out. And well, it's such an empowering and like relieving process for people, because then what naturally gets to emerge is you.
Yes.
People will come and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so confused. I don't have clarity. And we don't spend the session brainstorming and trying to get clarity. No, I'm more interested in like, let's see what part is in the way of this clarity. Let's support that part to relaxing. And then within the next few days, I always get messages that are like, oh my God, Andrea, you won't believe it. I just had this amazing idea. I have the clarity. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Yeah. This is just what you should expect after a sponsoring session. I'm always so excited because usually that clarity is nothing that they would have ever been able to come up with when they're blended with their parts.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why I'm always asking the question, like, who's driving the business bus? And I simplify it by saying fear or freedom, right? But what I'm really saying is a part or self-energy, if we could say it in that way. You mentioned before some common parts, and I'm just wondering if we can kind of revisit, like, in entrepreneurship. And again, I think I don't love spending energy saying what doesn't work. And I will also say again that my personal point of view is that a lot of particularly online coaching is very much about you either push through or you get a system that like, you plug yourself into this framework and it's like, but if you're doing it from an energy that's not self-energy, and also like I've got a post brewing inside of me about Black Friday sales. I'm like, who is buying on Black Friday? Is it a part or is it your self-energy? Is it fear or is it freedom? Like you could add to cart all you want, but if what you're seeking is relief from this pain that you are perceiving that you're in, that business is not working, guess what? You just, save your money, people. You can stop pressing buy. So
yeah, this is like a personal thing for me, is how so much coaching, so much therapy tends to be manager to manager. Like you come to me with your perceived problem, right? My binge eating is a problem. And then my manager says, well, I can help you solve the problem. Who's asking like what's underneath, right? Like there is no self-energy there when you're coming with your manager parts and I'm showing up with mine and I'm like, I can fix you. It's like, it will only ever go so far, because at some point the system needs to balance itself. The firefighter will come up because that's what the system does. and people backtrack or they feel like they spiral or just end up feeling more and more dysregulated and then eventually pissed off and resentful at me because I didn't promise what I said I was going to promise.
Correct. Exactly. And
And
so
so
the other thing that well, actually, let's have this conversation because it's one of the things I want to touch on, this whole the whole concept of pain point marketing. So like the part. Yeah. Let's go down that like rabbit hole because I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know, like I wrote that post months ago about coaches coaching coaches to coach coaches. And that's really at the heart of what we're talking about is like, you know, you can teach someone and as a copywriter, like I know how to manipulate someone into buying something. I could pretty much guarantee that, you know, a sales page is going to get at least 70% uptake if I marketed to your manager parts or your firefighters that are looking for relief to the pressure in your system. But if I'm actually in integrity, I don't want to be doing that. I want to be writing from myself and talking to yourself. And you have a lot to say about this. So go for it.
I mean, you covered the gist of it. I took care of the fire sign. No, just kidding. And it's absolutely true. Like we are really taught this like pain point marketing, but like whose pain are we pulling on? Like are we actually talking to the exile of somebody else who doesn't feel worthy or who doesn't feel safe to be seen? Is that who we're talking to? Are we talking to the perfectionist managers who just want the system that's going to perfect things? Are we talking to the strivers that are just like, what? I can make 6 figures in a year? Yes, I will grind myself.
Andrea, in a minute.
Oh my God, I was so irate. Yesterday, I saw a post that was like, you can be a neuroscience coach by this time next week. And I was like, do not ever coach me if you took a program that you learned in 1 freaking week. Don't ever. I'm so mad.
I've got so much to say about that as well. I saw that on Instagram.
Right? That's not my highest self. Anything that promotes a sense of urgency or if something is wrong with you and this thing is the solution is not a self-to-self thing. If we're truly like, if I'm in self-energy and I'm speaking to somebody's highest self, like their most empowered version, that person wins and so do I. Yes. Like not only if they come to me, are they going to feel like their whole yes is completely embodied, results that they create will actually be like sustainable. Yeah. It will actually work because their self, which, you know, the only agenda of self energy is to heal, right? Is higher and higher consciousness, right? And you know, that can only happen if we're talking to the other person's higher self. We can acknowledge that they have parts up, but that's not who we want to be making our decisions for us.
Yes, exactly. Quick pause, my love. If you've been feeling like you've outgrown some of the boxes you used to fit in, or there's a version of you that is ready to speak more unapologetically, to lead from a whole other, more bold, more beautiful evolution, and to be seen for your unique gifts and genius, you need to get your hands on a Genius You human design reading. And no, this is not a human design reading like you know it through the tropical system with like a rote, you know, surface level generic description. This is actually the way that I do human design through the lens of true sidereal, which is true sky at the time of your birth, human design, and an intuitive coaching audio breakdown that decodes your voice, your visibility, your purpose. It is a massive permission slip. It is a mirror to your magnificence. And it is the perfect gift right now to yourself to enter 2026 with a whole new level of the evolution you're stepping into. The way that I see true sidereal human design is like the next step, the next stage, the next wild woman yes to your evolution. And right now, these are half price, which is $222 US for a 60+ page report, an hour of intuitive coaching from me in audio reading format, and also the ability to add on an in-person intuitive coaching session to answer any specific questions that you might have as a follow-up. And they are available very, very, very excitingly on my brand new website. Now, it's a complicated URL, so if you're listening to this, go and check the show notes. But where you will find them is offers.kyliepatchett.com/genius. offers.kyliepatchett.com/genius. All right, back to the show. Yeah, I've been really, since we had, like, I listened to, you were talking about this on another podcast episode that I'd listened to, and I was like, oh, that is so true. Like, it gave me a different lens through which to understand why I'm so against sales manipulation in copy, right? I've always been against it, and I've always talked about being against it, and I've always talked about storytelling as the way to connect, heart to heart with someone. But I wasn't kind of getting that next perspective, which is like, of course, that's why. And, I played that game in my first business. Like, I always did what I believed was in integrity. But really, when I look back, like, I was even looking through my Google Drive the other day because I'm like cleaning stuff out. And I was like, wow, some of this is like so not how I would position it. Like, I believe in the content, but the way that I had been delivering it, or just repeating, and this is the coaches coaching coaches to coach coaches, right? You see monkey do, monkey see, monkey do. It's like, oh, that must work because that person is more successful than me. So that's the way that I have to market, and that's the way that I have to sell. And that's the way, like, all of the like time things and the scarcity and the da-da-da, it works. But who do we welcome into our worlds, into our business ecosystem when we are speaking to the fear?
Yeah. And we've all been there where we're like, not even sure if we want to market because it's icky, right? So many people are like, oh my gosh, how do I even have a coaching business? How do I, promote myself because it's icky? And so they don't do it at all. And so this is actually just the way that, no, you actually can, but can you do it from the quality of compassion?
Exactly.
Right? Can you do it from a quality of connectedness? Can you do it from a quality of like courage? So you can say the bold thing that's on your heart, right? Can you say it from calm? And so it's not like, oh, I need you to pick me to be my coach. Can you say it from quality and to the highest self that can receive that? And in that way, even if they don't work with you, that's not the point. It means that your message itself can be shifting consciousness for people, right? It could be tapping into somebody's higher self. And that's amazing to me. Like, even if somebody doesn't work with me, but they read those words and they feel empowered, like I've done something.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where marketing does not have to feel icky. It can actually be a really beautiful offering, in fact.
Exchange. Yeah, exactly. And I think as I'm hearing you speak, there's this, I often talk in the words of like frequency, or like the bat signal that you're putting out in your marketing. Like, who are you actually attracting? What frequency are you putting out in that bat signal? And I use the example of like when this very overpreneur, codependent, trained part of me was running my first business, the bat signal I was putting out definitely attracted a lot of beautiful humans and quite a number of people that were looking for someone to fix them, because that was the part that I was playing. That was the bat signal I was putting out there. So of course, with that frequency, the people that match it are the people that want that. And I'm like, so be very careful how you market and what energy you're in, because if you put everything out there with the perfectionist part, guess who you're going to get back? You're going to get back people that want you to be perfect. And like you said before, that level of like resentment or, it comes back sometimes when there's people that you've invited in through that frequency. And it's like, don't put yourself in harm's way. And I was just having this conversation the other day with another beautiful human who's an entrepreneur. And she's like, I don't actually care if this way is slower because it saves me from doing harm to other people by doing things from this push, grippy, graspy, like have to scale quickly. And I'm not saying that the two are, I think it's important to say, like, we're not saying that's mutually exclusive. I'm sure that there's people that are in integrity, that are talking self and also have had rapid growth. So I'm not saying one like negates the other, but I do think that a lot of the messaging we hear about the 6 figures in a year, 6 figures in a month, 6 figures in a minute, blah, 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 is through that, like, it has to be done in a particular way. And that way is often that very fear-driven thing. And I just don't want to play the game. This is not my playing field.
No. And like, we're saying all this, and this is definitely like a hill that I'm ready to like, die on because it means a lot to me. But to be able to market that way, like we really have to be pretty like practiced in our own system,
Yes.
right? You have to like be working yourself, doing your shadow work in whatever way that looks like. Like I love it through IFS because it's great for analytical people who are really heady. Like it's such a like easy way in. People who are drawn to it. But I mean, there's a lot of ways into self energy, whether it's through somatic work, human design. Like there's a million different ways to get from Toronto to where you are. And it's awesome. Like you can get to self energy a million different ways. I do personally find IFS really effective and sustainable and relatively efficient. But you have to do your own work. Like the marketing aspect for me to get to that level where I could like really be intentional about my marketing in that ways, because like I have worked with my system for years. There is a lot of self energy here because I worked with a lot of my key player parts. And so, being able to do that work, and, you can check out my YouTube channel. There's a ton of free content there that will guide you into working with your parts as well. Or, a practitioner, an IFS practitioner, whether it's, me or other coaches out there or therapists out there, like getting the reps in where you are guided, because it's so much more potent when you're guided and somebody is leading you than when you're trying to do it yourself. But doing the work yourself is like the precursor, like getting yourself into genuine self energy as much as possible so that it becomes a more natural state for you to be in. And then leading it into your work is a really beautiful, like, just next step.
Yeah. It's so much. We were reflecting before we started recording about, it's an anniversary of a decision that I made from a fear, like a manager part who was absolutely terrified of this fast expansion I was in this time last year, right? And I just keep on coming home to every decision that I look back on and go, it probably wasn't, well, I know it wasn't, not probably. I know that decision was not made with self energy. And of course, it's not the right one or the best and most healthy way of getting somewhere, because my self energy was under a lot of layers right at this point. I feel like, I know we need to finish up, but I feel like I am going to like PS this episode by saying, this is why. So I love AI for so many different purposes, but what I really want people to hear, and then I'm going to do a solo episode about it right after this, I think, is the fact that AI can be a way that some of your protective parts are stopping you from actually having to finesse your message and know who you're talking to and have your self energy as the start of anything that you do with AI. And this is the problem, because you are not speaking from your own frequency. You're speaking from a, computer generated frequency. And yes, I use AI for many things. I don't know, writing welcome emails, for instance, where it's not as important, but then inside of that welcome email is me on video with my self energy talking to you, right? So I'm not against AI, but I think that this is the reason why we are in very dangerous territory, because if you're not starting with self energy, you're not putting out a clean bat signal. But anyway, that's a whole other episode. Can you please tell us what your YouTube channel is called? Because you mentioned.
Yeah. I just changed the name, but I think it's IFS and Spirituality with Andrea. You can like kind of like search my name, and I've got quite a lot of just videos that will explain different parts or more about IFS if you want more of an explanation. And some really beautiful processes as well if you want to like listen to a meditation and be guided into your system. Yeah.
Highly recommend. If you've never heard of parts work, or if you've heard about it but haven't understood, just allow this to be a little breadcrumb trail. Like if you're feeling that sense of curiosity in the body, follow it, because I guarantee that it will help you be much more compassionate about parts of you that you're probably thinking are problems, and actually they're really loving on you in the way that only they know how. Do you have anything else you'd like to share on your website that people can like get started with getting to know IFS?
Yeah, I would invite people, like I said, I get to help people trust themselves for a living. And so I have a self-trust starter kit. It's blending IFS and some of the self-trust work that I've been doing. And so that's a really beautiful place to start. And we can link that in the show notes, and it's on my
Yes.
website.
Let's do that.
And, for the time being, I'm just working one-on-one with people in a really high touch coaching space. I think this is where this work gets to be the most potent. And so if that's ever something that feels good to somebody, like, definitely get in touch.
And remember, like, the key thing to understand is, like we said right at the beginning, there's not really that many business problems. There's a lot of personal problems showing up in business clothing, the way that they're expressing themselves. That's all. So if you are trying to slap more strategy or a magic pill solution or a new coach or a new program or whatever on top of, a system that is kind of showing up in ways that you don't really want to, you're just putting, you're setting yourself up to fail. I'm not going to mince my words. So there you go. Mic drop.
All my systems started working so much better once my inner system was aligned and I had the capacity for it.
Of course, because it's exhausting. Like we've said multiple times, it's exhausting to be in this push me, pull you, swing backwards and forwards, because we have been taught by the world that, some of these, particularly firefighters, like, you need to demonize them and that's a bad part of you or whatever. And bring some compassion and some love. And I love that you say that you get to help people trust themselves for a living. That's very, very cool. Little summary of Andrea and her native environment. Thank you so much. This has been such a joy. I've got many, many other questions, so I think we'll have to come back for part 2.
Yeah, happy to. Also, I'm going to just put this out there. If you ever want me to guide you through a process live, let's do that on your podcast. So people know what we're talking about. Yeah, because you get to.
I'm down for that. I'm like an open book anyway. I talk about everything that's going on in my system. So why the heck not? Yes, I love that. Like, I have really appreciated podcasts like Amy Babish has, where she's guiding through, because I'm like, I don't know what alchemical constellations are, but listening to it, I'm like, this shit is wild. Like, it's so cool. So yes, let's do that. We'll book it in. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. And stay tuned for that AI episode, because I do have a lot to say about this revolution that we're in the middle of. I'm not anti it, but I do think that there's big asterisks that we need to be aware of.
So good. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode. If this episode lit a fire in your body, in your business, deep down in your bones, please take a moment to drop a rating and review so more rebels just like you can find us. And don't keep this goodness to yourself. Share it with your disruptive rebel and revolutionary friends who are ready to roar right alongside of you. Until next time, stay wild, stay unapologetic, and stay fucking free.